Welcome to night one of your Impact Attack. That's right, it's your Impact Attack. And we're not going to let the WWE eclipse whatever TNA's been doing lately. Oh no, no, we won't. And who is we? We're talking about the VBC. Well, that would make me the V, the vet. That would make my tag team partner, who I'm tagging, Brandon, would be the B. Brandon, what's going on?
Not much, man. Dude, this has been a great weekend to enjoy wrestling. Was it a perfect weekend? It never will be. Perfections, there's always going to be something you can tune up. But that doesn't mean you can't enjoy what you got and be happy with it.
That's right. Wise words. And speaking of words, you will be providing the words tonight, the C, the chat. You're already just jumping and hooting and hollering, and you're not taking your seats and filing in quietly like you normally do. Who do we have here with us so far?
We got a lot of people with us tonight. We got Media M5. We got Lab Rat. We got Lizbeth. We got Javi Uchiha. We got Zaki Ziki Sauce. Jerome Hall. Hope you guys are having a great night. Whoop, whoop.
Yes. They must be having a great night because they're here on the Impact Attack. And every Impact Attack is a great night. So, um, let's see. Let's start with Chris Winland because oftentimes we forget his question, and we
Sorry, Chris.
apologize to Chris Winland for forgetting his question sometimes. But he's gonna kick us off with a question right here. He says, aside from Moose, is there anything with this new TNA brand that you guys actually do enjoy? Anything? Bueller? I'll go first. I got a short answer. No. Your turn, Brandon.
The graphics and the presentation, and it does feel like they're trying to do more on the show and get more people on and advance more stories, but they're not really interweaving everything. It's basically like everything is its own, like compartmentalized story that doesn't interact with anything else that goes on around it. Whereas that's when the magic happens, because then all of a sudden, like, these two worlds or these two characters bump into each other, and all of a sudden something springs from that.
Yeah. Is that just a function of? I don't necessarily think it is, but just throwing it out there. Is that just a function of having your formatting be where you have to tape so much stuff, get it in the can, and you don't want to? I don't know. Does that just stifle creativity somehow? I wouldn't think it would be a problem. I would even say it would be easier than going live week to week, because you can kind of plan out your whole thing when you have everybody there, right?
Right? You would think so. And if you listen to Jeff Jarrett's podcast, like, he's explained the creative process during the time where okay, we meet on this day, or this time of the month. We'd be everybody at my house, down in my basement. We have the 3 whiteboards, have this stuff planned out, go over this idea. I don't know. I mean, I don't know why they don't follow the successful model that was laid out in front of them.
Well, I don't know either. But another question is, do you foresee more WWE and TNA door openings with the new management at the helm for both brands? Now that I do see.
I'm with you on that one, especially like when the news came out today where Nick Khan flat out said, yeah, we want to do more cross promotional stuff. And one of the first places they went to was TNA, and they've already done stuff with them.
Yeah. And that's kind of how it should be. Overall, what we can really my takeaway so far from the WWE regime change is a general loosening the hell up. And just in the general presentation, I feel that the talents are more relaxed, and this is most noticeable when it comes to like the commentary teams, or like just the idea that people are allowed to have names, you know Like they may refer to a referee by name, or they may name drop certain members of production, or
Damn it, Pell,
things
he's
of,
just a ref. He doesn't have a name. Damn it.
yeah, it's things like that that there was really, I don't really think anybody could justify a reason why those things had happened other than that's just how Vince wanted it. But I don't even think he had a good reason for not doing it. And there were times when sometimes it would be okay to do certain things, and then on a whim change his mind and it's not okay to do certain things, which leads to inconsistencies historically when you go back and look at older, you know, older footage, older segments and stuff like that. Like you'll just see things that's like, oh, well, I mean, that guy said wrestling there. Why was he allowed to say wrestling? You know, like it just, stuff like that doesn't make sense. So overall, you know, just I assume it's probably like a much less tense place to work there. Um, and I think Triple H is more willing to uh, let everybody do their assigned jobs and not him have to micromanage anything. So that way, if like, you know, if something works, hey, great. If something doesn't work, okay, well, at least we tried. Maybe we could try something else, or we could try it again and see if we could do it differently. You know, these are positives. And if you do that in terms of your own production, then you got to be more open to ideas on, okay, well, we've done what we can do. Now what else can we do that we haven't done? And that includes those things like reaching out to promotions to, you know, give them a hand up, give your talent someplace else to go. If you don't have any room for them on the show, and let's face it, the WWE top of the card is pretty stacked right now. And there's not going to be a lot of time for everybody on the programs, even though there's so much programming. So giving them a chance to go somewhere else and work with different people and get some experience that way, that's a good way to still invest in your talent, even if you don't have time for them. So just so they don't have to make a town and then just sit around all day and then get in their rental car and go back to the airport.
Yeah, like why, like going back to WWE's original relationship with ECW, why have one ECW when you can have multiple ones at different levels of exposure and success?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. All right, well, Chris gets a third question, and then this is it for him. He says, shit, well, here's the last one for sure. Do you think AEW shoots itself in the foot by continuously taking shots at WWE on air while the latter never even bats an eye in the other direction? Well, that's not true. Um, they definitely batted an eye in the other direction, and they do it a lot. As a matter of fact, one that I thought was particularly funny was, I guess, something about there was CM Punk was like doing one of those like panel things or something, and they were talking about the attendance figures, and he was saying like, did anybody get the tattoo on of the? So they're taking shots. They do take shots, and they're gonna take shots. That's just kind of how it is. AEW is not shooting themselves in the foot by doing that, even though it does make them, you know, anytime they get clearly outshined by WWE's overall product, which they will, it's not the shots that make them, you know, that shoot themselves in the foot. It's just all the decisions that they make because they're not being run like a business, and they're, you know, you tend to see people with money that don't really know the value of money. Tony Khan doesn't have to run AEW to make a profit in order to survive. He can always put money into it to make up for whatever profits they're not achieving. And that's not a business model. That's a hobby model. Like, it's just the same way as, you know, if you invest in whatever, if you invest in wrestling figures like the Major Brothers or whatever, I'm sure they're not nearly making the profits on their podcast and their figures that they have spent on collecting and amassing and stuff on their hobby yet. But they do it because they love it or whatever. That's just one example. So if AEW doesn't try to do things with a actual business model in mind, then it's always just going to be like a fun indie project that's just on a bigger scale than most indies get to. Would you agree with that?
I agree, and I think the way that AEW like fires their shots at WWE, it comes across a lot more petty and childish instead of like, okay, you fired this at us, we're gonna get a bigger cannon and fire a bigger shot back at you. Now it's your turn to respond. Rather than what they're doing, like with airing the footage of that, just comes across a lot more petty and childish. Like, okay, if you're gonna get them, actually go after them and do something that hits them hard.
Yeah. Or just mind your business. That's also good. Um, I don't know. I would look at in this era. I don't look at there being a benefit to competition per se. I think the benefit is everybody operating under their own banner, and then when the time is right, coming together to make projects happen. Um, and if you keep, as Brandon says, being petty, you're closing a lot of those doors for yourself, and there's really no reason to. Basically, what I think. So, but speaking of WWE, I guess they had kind of a big weekend this weekend, right? History making weekend or anything,
Yeah, they had a little bit of a weekend this weekend.
right? And obviously we had some watch alongs going on for night 1 and 2 of WrestleMania, hosted by Brandon, and I'm sure that was fun for everybody involved. I was able to join in night 2, and Brandon had both nights. So, what kind of gave you the inspiration to do that? And is that the first time you've actually watched a WrestleMania in a while?
Yeah, definitely the first time in a while. I don't know what kind of got me to decide to go ahead and do that was I got a hold of Big Ray and I asked him if anybody was doing it. Anybody in HMG was doing it, and he said, "Let me check with Ben. Nah, nobody is. If you want to, go ahead." Okay, cool. Well, let's go ahead and do it. Get everybody together and just hang out and watch it together.
All right. So no particular. It was just like, hey, let's just do it. Just on a whim. A
Pretty
Vince
much.
McMahon whim. Yeah. Yeah, so we talked a little bit about um
Yes, it
the
will.
production values, and how everything kind of I asked how things were different from past WrestleManias or things like that. Having watched a night of it myself, I've seen, you know, they're like they're some of the differences are kind of glaring, but I wonder how much people actually pay attention to some of those things. Um, but I kind of also noticed that too, like because obviously it's a big whiplash to go from watching that, and then I watched this episode of Impact, right? And even though Impact really does not have, anywhere near the production values or whatever of even a regular WWE show, let alone a WrestleMania extravaganza, I did notice some things on this episode that um, were slightly different. You know, I don't know if I would say, as per Chris Winland's first question, if there are things I like about them, but it's things that I noticed that they're doing. Um, and we'll talk about some of those. Um, but did any of the particular either production choices that they made or just anything from either one of the two nights stand out to you?
Not really, other than it just felt like it was a natural evolution of their already, high quality production values we've come to expect. It's basically like, okay, how are they going to top themselves this year? Okay, that's how they did it. All right, well, how are they going to do it next year? All right, they're going to do it.
All right. Well, most of the news and everything that's come out today is sort of surrounding that. Uh, A lot of WrestleMania results and coverage of the the media, you know, press conferences, things like that. So, I mean, that's basically all the kind of news that you're going to see is stuff from that. Yeah, one thing I notice about the headlines from at least Wrestling Inc. say that's the one I usually go to. Um, it's like almost every article starts with something like so and so gets candid about blah blah blah, or so and so opens up about blah blah blah. It's like those two things. If you go down the headlines page, it's like that shows up a lot. Like it's actually, I wonder if they realize how corny that is. Um, that they use the phrase "gets candid" so many times. It's all visible right there. Um, but
Psst, guys, this is a work.
no, it's candid. We're getting candid here. That's how you know it's not a work because they're candid. Um, so, um, so with that being said, like nothing really new. Um, and they're still pulling new shit out of that CM Punk Ariel Helwani thing. Like I saw a new article. I was like, did he say something else? Nope, they're just still referencing that one thing from a week ago.
They're gonna milk that for everything they can.
Yeah, well, they got a lot of stuff they could get from it. But, well, yeah. Anything else that we should touch on before we just dive right in?
I think we're good, homie. Let's hit that impact attack. Whoop whoop.
All right, let's get in, get out. All right, we're starting off with a package on Dolph and Shelley's big match tonight.
Package. Big match.
Yeah, so there one thing I'll say, if you want to put this in the positive column, I can't say it's something that they've done since the TNA rebrand, but at least for this episode, what they did was they had a main event for you, and throughout the night they kept giving you little bit of hype, just small little hype things for the main event to get you interested, to keep reminding you, to get you to tune in. So if anybody was actually watching this show on television, that would work. I don't know who
No,
is, but that's the idea. And it doesn't hurt to do it no matter when you're watching it.
no, they did a pretty decent job of building the main event and keeping you reminded throughout the night.
Yep. But we're
Of
going to
course,
kick off with another match that we were promised, which is Mustafa Ali versus Rhino in an old school rules match. Now, this was specifically not for the X Division Championship, I believe, right? Isn't that?
yeah, I believe like Rhino's like words in the promo where I don't care about the title, I just want to beat your ass.
Right. Which makes no sense, but that's fine. Yeah. It's not like you can't do both, but
Right, exactly.
yeah.
Like I want to beat your ass, but taking that title makes it even better. Something like that.
Yeah, something. But man, they didn't do it. You got some guy named Joe Watson in the front row. He's got a new book, apparently. It was probably used as a weapon at some point during this match, I think. He used to play for the Philadelphia Flyers, so I don't know. The crowd did seem to mind one way or the other.
I don't think the book is used as a weapon. It was more of a spot in the match where what was it? Ali took it, threw it in a trash can, and then Rhino pulled it out of the trash can and gave it back to him.
Oh, you didn't hit him with it, huh? I guess I just assumed that because when I see a match where a bunch of shiny trash cans are all over the place, you guys generally know by now I tend to check out a little bit. So
It was a sale at Home Depot, pal.
I did see they used the giant blown up Pro Wrestling Illustrated cover for Ali as a weapon. They definitely used that. Any other weapons of note in this match?
Nah, it's pretty tame compared to I guess you could say tables.
Yeah. Yeah, they did use a table. Security jumped up to distract, and not building security. This is Ali's personal Secret Service security guys. Jump up to distract Rhino, and he has to take them out. And then he goes to gore Ali through the table, but Ali moves and covers Rhino for the 1-2-3. And then afterwards, Jake something attacks, and he lays Ali out. So far, this is
Bleh,
a by the numbers TNA opening.
bleh, bored.
Bored, eh? The trash cans didn't do it for you, huh?
Nope.
Okay. Any other comments on it at all?
Nah, this was just didn't care for it. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, here's some comments from Joe Hendry and Tasha Steeles about Shelley and Ziggler and their match coming up. They're hyping it up. Okay, now here's something a little different that we don't normally see. Now, Gia's on stage, or however you would describe it, the entrance ramp or whatever. She's up there, and she wants Alexander Hammerstone to come out. So he comes out, and then she asks if he's afraid of, Josh Alexander, and he says, "Why would he be?" And if he wants to have, I don't think we need to have a third match, but if we do, it's going to happen at Rebellion. And then he starts cutting his promo into the camera, but like he's grabbing the camera. His face is in the camera. He's trying to enter your living room through the camera. And the cameraman ends up being assaulted. He's absolutely not a local indie guy. He is certainly a trained camera professional, and he picks him up, puts him in the torture rack after putting the headgear on him and saying, "Look, it's Josh Alexander." So, yeah, what do you think? What do you think about this one?
It was different, and I don't know. I'm just getting. It's really tough to get in some of these promos. It's just the same stuff we've seen before.
Even though he grabbed the camera and tried to enter your living room,
We've seen that before too.
even though Gia was outside and not in the back.
I mean, at least they tried to make it a little bit different with that. But I think that was just to set up him assaulting the camera guy. But then again, they could have done it backstage too, so that renders that moot.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, we go to the Rascals are in the ring. They're antagonizing the crowd. The FBI comes out. I'm sure everyone is very sad to see what the FBI is here. Now, well, all right. Well, it's little Guido, but he also has these two other guys. And I'm sure everybody in there was like, they wanted to be excited for the FBI, but they can't because they don't know who these guys are.
Yeah, it came across to me at least like it was a new FBI where it's like, okay, two young Italian guys who are managed by little Guido. And that's what gives it the FBI rub.
Yeah. Well, it ain't going to work. The FBI wasn't that over. And it's not. And they certainly can't, Yeah, I don't know. Zach Clayton and Ray Jazz. I don't know who Ray Jazz is. I never seen this guy before. Zach Clayton, unfortunately, I have seen before. The Reality, I believe, is what he goes by whenever he's over in Ring of Honor. But yeah, he's probably out of there now. He's probably one of those guys that didn't actually get signed, so he couldn't have got released. Anyway, they have a match with the Rascals. Nobody cares. Zachary Wentz a note for him is if I'm telling you, you guys with your self tanner, you have to wash your hands when you're done with it, or even better yet, if you buy those disposable like vinyl gloves, or whatever, like a surgical professional, like if you put those on and then apply the tanner, that'll keep your hands from looking like just his hands, like just and only his hands look like 96 Hogan. The rest of him just looks like just a normal guy, but he slathered himself in this and didn't wash his hands. So he's got these brown hands. He's looking like the He-Man from the Masters of the Universe cartoon. Um, in the hands. Yeah, so the match happens. Myron Reed shows back up. He sprays Guido with spray paint in the face. And then they hit Ray Jazz with their whatever their finisher is, and then that's the end. Thoughts?
Where's Big Vito?
Not here.
He should have been the muscle of this group.
It should have been the whole group. Yeah. All right. So nothing else for that, huh? Okay. I don't blame you. I don't either.
Yeah, I think this was an incredibly flat show all around, unfortunately.
All right. Well, certainly we get some comments from Kevin Knight about the main event tonight. He says it's going to be astronomical.
Next.
John Gresham is in some sort of therapy group. And, they say things like, or he says things. Apparently, the voices in his head are getting a promo here. And the voices in Jonathan Gresham's head says, if you want to be honest, you have to live a lie, and things like that. So I don't know where they're going with this, but it's another one of these cinematic deals.
Yeah, probably one of the more creative things they did on the show, and with actual real character development.
Mm-hmm.
I liked it. I thought this was one of the better, segments of the show.
I think I heard something about Gresham being how do I describe call back to work? I guess like he hadn't been around, and now and TNA's like, hey, get to work or something. I don't know.
I think it was he just resigned, because Jordan Grace posted something about him resigning.
Okay. Well, that wasn't the report that I saw, but it doesn't really matter. He's here in this vignette, so. All right, you know who else is here? Seven Ball with Gia and no music underneath. They are interrupted by the system with some Moose, and Trent books himself a match with Moose for next week. It's not exactly what I want to see, but if this is what it takes to get Moose in the ring, then I guess I have no choice but to accept.
Gotta have that Moose. We need that Moose.
Yep, and we need next we need Bay versus Kaz. As promised, they have a match. It's all pretty normal, and then Kazarian grabs a chain from under the ring, because that's where they keep the little extra piece of chain that's just long enough to wrap around your hand. And then Ace takes it away from him, like, hey, don't hit my friend with the chain. And then Frankie, I guess I guess he didn't learn this one. He learned this one from Eddie Guerrero, not Killer Kowalski, but he sells himself like he just got punched, and the referee throws Ace out. And while he's throwing Ace out, Chris Bay goes to get back in the ring, and Frankie kicks the rope and hits him in the balls, and then he hits a fade to black. He gets a 1-2-3 on Chris Bay.
To be fair, I think Eddie Guerrero got the whole like fake out, toss the weapon, act like he got hit. I think he actually got that from Killer Kowalski.
Think so?
I think so.
What what day of training do you think they start teaching the weapon fake out at Killer Kowalski school?
Day 10?
Day 10? Okay. Um yeah. So, it's Frankie Kazarian betting on himself, doing whatever, he's taking stuff now. Uh so he took this match from one half of a tag team. Um there was no Eric Young anywhere on this show, so we're not furthering that angle in any way.
No. Just
Even though I
reminding,
think,
hey, these guys are going to wrestle the next pay-per-view.
yeah, yeah. Maybe the announcer said something. I wasn't listening to them. We do get a recap of MK Ultra's recent history. We see how we don't see it here, but we, as in you and I, remember Masha being on that Goldberg like streak, and what's his name getting jealous, Chris Sabin, like, wow, you get a streak, huh? And now she's doing jobs on Explosion, so we've come a long way.
Yeah, I remember the Death Note. Whenever she picked the next person, she would hand them one of their 8x10s with a red X across it.
Yep. Oh yeah, the good old days. So now she starts doing a promo in this room that's got the classic red lighting that MK Ultra is so known for. And right in the middle of it, Alicia Edwards comes in. She proposes that maybe they'd be a tag team and win the knockout titles, because Killer Kelly ain't cutting it or something, and she needs a partner. So how about it? And she leaves Masha to ponder this. What do you think Masha should answer?
I think Masha should kind of go it on her own and then go back to the old Masha.
All right, assuming that's not an option.
Damn.
take the lish, or stick with your wife. Open up a stick with, will she find happiness with a new love, or is she gonna open up the stick with your wife barrel?
As weird as it is, I think there might be some potential material with her and Alicia, like being like, odd couple tag team champs.
Yeah, could be. Liz says no lish. All right. Well, we get to see Shelly and Dolph warming up. We get comments from Josh Alexander and the mountain guys, the Speed Mountains.
And which begs the question: if Josh Alexander's on the show and he can got time to make comments about this main event, why is he not going after Hammerstone after everything he did to him?
He didn't feel like it. He was too busy filming comments about the main event. So they probably filmed that just as Hammerstone was out there beating up the cameraman, so he couldn't interrupt himself to just go do that, right?
Yeah, fuck that cameraman. I gotta talk about this main event between Nemeth and Alex Shelley.
That's right. Khan borrows Masha's room so that he can do a promo about the Monsters Ball. My notes fucked up here. Apparently, was this was okay, this was wait a minute. What the hell happened here? Oh, I see. My notes got sort of rearranged here. So next is this Zaya Brookside versus Ash by Elegance?
No, I think we had the Khan and the.
No, after that.
Hang on, let me pull it. Let me see. Yes, we did. Yeah, it was Zion Nash by Elegance after that.
Okay. Well, what'd you think of that match?
Too long, in my opinion. Could have taken a couple minutes off, and I think at least Ash knows. It feels like to me at least she understands her weaknesses and tries to cover it up with more Gaga and character work.
Okay.
So at least she's aware of that, in my opinion.
Okay. Well, the concierge throws champagne in Zaya Brookside's eyes as she gets pretty much just pinned, not even rolled up, kind of. No move. She doesn't hit a move on her. She just folds her over and pins her. So there you go. ABC runs into AJ and Swan in the back. Looks like AJ's trying the same tactics he used before to sort of peel Chris Bay off of the team. But Chris Bay does not go for it, at least not here. And
yep, because Swan didn't originally go for it. Look where he is now.
That's right. But I did like his comeback about when he's saying like, "You're a high flyer, but have you ever flown first class?" And he's like, "Actually, yeah, we did as champions, which is something you would know nothing about." So pretty good. And then we see Dolph and Shelley walking, and then we see that last week Matt Cardona attacked a lady, but that's okay here in TNA. We could do that. And that transitions over to Matt and Steph Delander with Gia, no music underneath. Matt says we're here for buzz, money, and gold. And Steph says she's taking the belt from Jordan Grace at Rebellion. It's just as simple as that.
Yeah, this definitely, again, this show just really felt like it was kind of phoning it in. Where it was like, okay, we know all eyes are on WrestleMania, so kind of put something out there. So people are like, hey, these guys are there.
They were there. And we're almost done because we're now at the main event. It is the generational clash. That's how they're selling us this. It's Nick Nemeth, the wanted man, versus Alex Shelley, the guy that I guess he's the greatest of all time, right? Based on what everybody said about him.
That was like one thing that bugged me about the promotion of this match, generational clash. Like, how is it a generational clash when it was two guys who started around the same time? It's just they were never had a chance to work with each other because of where they worked.
I guess it's a intergenerational clash. Like the generational, like be as in they're both of the generation.
I guess that
Isn't that
works.
everybody pretty much? Isn't every match a generational clash? Never mind that. Look, it's a generational clash, all right? It sounds better. So that's what we get. It's a generational clash. They clashed. Um I have one note on their match. Both guys did it. Uh but it's when you're getting heat on a guy's arm, you generally you want to avoid doing anything where you are in a face down prone position because for example, like if they're working on your arm and you've got your arm stuck out and they drop a knee on your arm, for example, right? If you're face down, there's a potential for like your shoulder or your elbow or something else to get dislocated if something accidental happens, right? Like
Right.
if you drop the knee too hard accidentally and now you're face down, that puts your body in the awkward position. It could torque the joints
Yep.
and you
Or
can
if
get
you end
really
up,
hurt.
yep. Or if you find yourself face down and you know the guy's going after your arm, tuck that shit under.
Yeah. It's very
Make it.
easy to just be laying on your back and do the same thing. You can still drop a knee or step on the guy's arm, but if you're laying on your back, your arm has nowhere to go. So you just hit the arm and it's fine. You could take it. It's a safe spot. But when you flip it over, now you're running the risk of dislocations and other, you could tear like a pec or a tendon or any number of things can happen, and it probably wouldn't because assuming the people know what they're doing, they're not going to like really do it, but it just takes one mistake and it's not worth it just for one tiny part of your heat in your match. So you don't want to, have a severe injury. And we see people get injured doing dumb stuff all the time. I just saw a guy in New Japan. He did a baseball slide in the match, or a low drop kick, however you want to look at it. And all that he did was put his hand on the mat the same way you would anytime you land, but that dislocated his shoulder. So something stupid like that, didn't do anything wrong. It just happened. And you never know when something like that's going to happen. So the idea is to mitigate the chances as much as you can. So if you're working on a guy's arm, if somebody's going to work on your arm, just lay on your back. Don't let them do it. Roll to your back, even if they try to do it. Like Brandon said, tuck it, make him fight for it. And then when he goes down to grab your arm or whatever, you could tell him, whatever. Not when I'm face down, But both guys did the same thing, back and forth. And they should know better. Other than that, I thought they had a really good match, considering I don't enjoy watching both of these guys. There were things that are their own personal picadillos, things that they do, their signature stuff that annoys me. But if I take all that out and just look at the body of the match that they had and the fact that it got hyped up to such a degree, this is the kind of match I prefer watching. It wasn't like spot. They were actually working. They were trying to tell a story in there. And they ramped up the excitement toward the end with the near falls and stuff. Actually, I thought a couple of their near falls were very good. But, I don't have too much bad to say about it other than that one safety critique I had. But I thought it was good and a very un-TNA like match. So that's my thoughts on that. What about you?
I mean, it was a decent match. I felt this was a match that should have been built to for pay-per-view rather than using TV time to go, 20 plus minutes.
Well, there ain't no pay-per-view to do because the guns are out. So
true, very true. Forgot about that. It was
now or never. And sometimes you do have to have a good main event on TV. If you have just this match with a bunch of other matches on a pay-per-view, no one cares. But if you actually tell the story and build up the match throughout a TV show and then have it as the main event, that's good. So they did that. But I guess when we look back in history, I don't know how many people are going to turn back to this generational clash and study it and learn from it. But they should. I just don't know who will. Nonetheless, that's it. That's your episode.
Whoop, whoop.
Now, do you have any ways that you could have made this episode any better?
I do. I got it right in front of me.
All right, well, let's try that.
All right, 1 second. Okay. All right, so we go to our recap and catch-up packet.
Catch-up packet.
And then we go to our intro, Pyro and Ballyhoo. Before we cut to the announce table, they run down the card for tonight, talk about recent events, and give their thoughts. And then we have an in-ring with the System. The System music and entrance promo about how they have the night off and could be at a restaurant or the club. They wanted to see Nemeth and versus Shelley in person. Time Machine out to the stage. Shelley promo on how he knows that the System has some kind of a plan. Nemeth and Speedball Mountain out to the stage. and Moose sows seeds of distrust among the baby faces. Before we go to our first commercial break. We come backstage with Time Machine, Nemeth, and Speedball Mountain. They all agree that Moose and the system are trying to play mind games with them, but there are still clear signs of tension and distrust among them. Then we go to match number 1, Old School Rules match, Rhino versus Mustafa Ali. Mustafa Ali music and entrance, Rhino music and entrance. Condensed version of the match we got on the show. And then we got Jake something out as he beats down Ali's security.
And they used the book as a weapon this time.
They used the book as a weapon this time. Then we go to the stage interview with Gia and Alexander Hammerstone. The same promo that we got on the show, and when the cameraman gets attacked, Gia calls for a commercial break, and we go to our second commercial break. Come back with match number 2, the Rascals versus FBI. The Rascals music and entrance, and as they're making their entrance, the announcers mention that Hammerstone has left and been told that if he returns tonight, the police will be called, so that takes care of him for the evening. A quick Rascals promo, the same one that we saw. FBI music and entrance, except this time they got Vito with them. Little Guido cuts his promo. We get the same match we got on the show with Myron Reed using spray paint, and the Rascals barely escape Vito and the rest of the FBI. Then we go to the Jonathan Gresham vignette, same one that we saw on the show. Video package for Monsters Ball, Khan versus PCO, same package we saw on the show. Then we go to the pre-tape of Masha and Alicia, the same one we saw on the show. Backstage, Speedball Mountain locker room. Mike Bailey is unconscious while Trent and Nemeth call for help. Then we go to our third commercial break. We come back to backstage. Speedball Mountain, Nick Nemeth and Santino. Bailey is being loaded into an ambulance. Santino says that he checked the security footage and the cameras are down so they can't see who did it. Moose arrives and says he saw Shelly do it. We go to match number 3, Frankie Kazarian versus Chris Bay. Chris Bay music and entrance with Ace Austin. Frankie Kazarian music and entrance. Condensed version of the match we got on the show. Then we go to a vignette of Joe Hendry where he makes fun of AJ Francis and Rich Swann. Then we go backstage to the Time Machine locker room. Trent and Nemeth enter it. Trent asks Shelly if he attacked Bailey. Shelly gets angry that he'd be accused and he says they're playing into the Moose and the system's mind games. Then we go to our fourth commercial break. We come backstage to the system's locker room. The system puts over what happened with Shelly, and Myers congratulates Moose for taking out Bailey. Moose says he didn't do it. Eddie says he didn't do it either. We go to our fourth match. Digital Media Championship. Crazy Steve versus Kevin Knight. Kevin Knight music and entrance. Crazy Steve music and entrance. Crazy Steve over after someone in a mask attacks Knight while the ref is distracted. Then we go backstage with ABC and Rich Swann and AJ Francis. The same pre-tape as we got on the show, except ABC mentions the Joe Hendry diss, and it sets up a tag match for next week. We go backstage to Gia and Matt Cardona and Steph DeLander. We get the same promo we got on the show. And then match number 5, Zaya Brookside versus Ash by Elegance. Zaya Brookside music and entrance. Ash by Elegance music and entrance. Condensed version of the match we got on the show. And then you go to a Decay vignette where they taunt Spitfire and they make fun of them in character and in gimmick, and they talk about how they're going to enjoy playing with their food before they devour them. Then you go backstage with Nick Nemeth and Alex Shelley. Shelley approaches Nemeth and explains how Moose and the system do business and how they work. And he says he had nothing to do with what happened to Bailey. Nemeth says he trusts Shelley, and they shake hands. Then you go to our 5th and final commercial break. Come back with a New Japan hype video. Go to the announce desk where they run down the card for next week's show and the current pay-per-view card. Match number 6 in our main event, Nick Nemeth versus Alex Shelley. The system are at their own table ringside with food and wine. Alex Shelley music and entrance, Nick and entrance. Match goes like it does on the show until we get to the finish. Trent Seven, Chris Sabin, Kushida, and Kevin Knight come to ringside and keep their attention on the system. Things come to blows between the system and the baby faces on the outside. And while the ref is distracted, Shelley low blows Nemeth, hits his finish, and wins. Shelley pulls a mask out of his tights. That's the same one worn by the man who attacked Knight earlier. Shelley grabs the mic and runs up the ramp, and he admits to attacking Bailey and Knight before the show goes off the air.
And I'm quitting the company, so none of y'all can get me. Ha ha ha. So it was Alex Shelley in a mask all along.
A little bit of heat harvest on the way out. Trying to, at least. That was my thought process.
Well, it's something. I mean, you wouldn't be able to tell whether he's wearing a mask or not because he has no facial expressions. So it works out that way, at least.
Oh, son of a bitch.
Well, that is your punched up version of the April 4th edition of TNA Impact. Huh. This is a low effort Impact and somewhat of a low energy show. But, I mean, what do you expect? We're all WrestleMania'd out.
Yeah, it was a weekend. I think they kind of understood. Okay, let's kind of take it easy this weekend. We know everybody's gonna be burnt out. Let's give them a more simple product to digest.
Yeah, not that I think they thought anything about that. I think they just did whatever they were gonna do. But yeah, that's I mean that's what we got. That's what we got, and it's not much else. So we will let you guys get back to all the other exciting stuff that you could be doing tonight. Before that, we might as well tell them where they can find us, right, Brandon?
Whoop whoop! You can find me on Twitter, or as the kids call it these days, the X at Transarchistia. We're getting close to getting the streams back up on Twitch at twitch.tv/Miss Tia the Transarchist. And you can also find me on Substack at HMG Brandon.
All right. Opinion Haver on all your social media platforms for me. Check out the Next Level Wrestling Review with Big Ray Hernandez every Wednesday at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern. Check out the Wreckage with Jimmy T every Sunday at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern. Check out what else do we check? Check out our watch along if you haven't watched WrestleMania yet. Why not? Why not throw us on to keep you company, whether it's night 1 or night 2. We got a couple of those up there for you on the Hami Media Group channel. So just watch along with us, sync up, and get the commentary. Let's see what else we got. Speaking of WrestleMania, if you want to hear stories about WrestleMania, a personal WrestleMania story, if you head over to the Rad Rob Gaming YouTube channel, he's got the Rad Mania week of shows, of which I kicked off, ahead of such luminaries as Barry Horowitz and Evad Sullivan. You had the old vet to give my experience on WrestleMania, from being booked to the travel to the day to the aftermath to everything, and a reaction to the actual portion of the show that I was on. So if you're interested in any of that kind of stuff and hearing stories that you've never heard before, told by me, then go check that out. And let's see, Wrestling with Rip Rogers every Friday at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern. Concrete. We'll see if they're on this week, but normally they've been pretty concrete. And of course, you've got Stevie Richards. He's got a inflatable hot tub review coming soon on his fitness channel. He's got tips for how to deal with stress on his fitness channel. So, in addition to everything else, the wrestling content is sort of in a transitioning phase too. So he figures out what he's going to do with that. But he did put up his reaction on Patreon of what he thought of the WrestleMania Night 2 finish of Cody with the story. See what Stevie Richards thought about that on Patreon. And I guess that's just about everybody. That's everything that you guys need to know about, and to go and feast your eyes upon and ears. So for Brandon, I'm the vet, and I don't have a sign off line.